Hi everyone, our lesson one is all about introduction to art and assumptions of art. So let's get to know what includes about art and other assumptions. So let's start. So the word art is derived from arte, which denotes craftsmanship, skill, mastery of form, and inventiveness. It serves as a technical and creative record of human needs and achievements. So that's the definition of arts. Now, according to Gombrich's Delphic observation, suggests that art is something which artists do. The various examples used to illustrate this primer are the following. Sorry. So ceramics, constructions, paintings, land art, installations, performance art, photomontage, and sculpture all have aesthetic status. That's according to him. In other words, the label art connects very disparate disparate objects, practices, and processes. Recognizing this diversity, various categorizations have been made within definitions of visual art. Okay, so building on this, we might propose a general set of guidelines for understanding what art thought to be. And that is first, fine art has traditionally been used to distinguish arts promoted by the academy, including painting, drawing, and four art theories, and art history, sculpture, from craft based arts. The latter typically refers to those works created by or for a function, such as ceramics, jewelry, textiles, needlework, and glass, which are still termed decorative arts. So, just like that. That's the work of Leonardo da Vinci, the Mona Lisa, made made of oil. Okay, so a broader definition of art encompasses those activities which produce works with aesthetic value, including filmmaking, performance, and architecture. For example, architecture has always had a close connection to painting, drawing, and sculpture, two instances being the classical revival in the 18th and 19th centuries and the Bauhaus aesthetics of the 1930s, which frequently integrated fine art with design, craft, and architecture. And then contemporary definitions of art are not medium specific as ideas around fine art tended to be, are particularly restrictive about nature of aesthetic value. So they have a lot of observations and ideas about art. These ideas are associated with the institutional theory of art, which is probably the most widely used definition. It recognizes that art can be a term designated by the artist and by the institutions of the art world rather than any external process of validation. On the one hand, it proves or provides an expansive framework for understanding diverse art practices, but on the other hand, it is so broad as to be virtually meaningless. However, regardless of categorization about art, all definitions of art are mediated through culture, history, and language. So that's the most important thing. To understand these differing concepts of art, we need to look at their social and cultural origin. Okay. So, some definitions of art, according to philosophers, art is that which brings life in harmony with the beauty of the world. That's according to Plato. Art is the whole spirit of man. That's according to Ruskin. Art is the medium by which the artist communicates himself to his fellows. Okay, that's according to Charleston. And art is anything made or done by man that affects or moves us so that we see or we feel beauty in it. That's according to Collins and Riley. Then there are assumptions and natures of arts. Art is perennially around us. Some people may deny having to do with the arts, but it is indispensable that life presents us with many forms of the opportunities for common with the arts. We need to open up our mind and take a look at the things around us and discover it on our own. So, first assumption is that art is universal. Art is timeless, spanning generations and continents through and through. Then there is also a misconception like artistic made long time ago. Age is not a factor in determining art. Right. So take note of that. Art is one of the main means of communication that can connect the world and reflect on cultural, political, and social dynamics through the beauty of art. Let art represent people. Let art represent tradition, culture, freedom, understanding, unity, and harmony. Literature has provided key works of art. Among the most popular ones being taught in school are the two Greek epics, the Iliad and the Odyssey, and the Sanskrit pieces Mahabharata and Ramayana are also staples in this field, right? You are familiar with those epics in our literature subject too, right? Word literature. So that is the Sanskrit. These works, purportedly written before the beginning of recorded history, are believed to be man's attempt at recording stories and tales that have been passed on, known, and sung throughout the years. Art has always been timeless and universal, spanning generations and continents through and through. In every country and every generation, there's always art. Oftentimes, people feel that what is considered artistic are those which have been made long time ago. And that is their belief. This is a misconception. Age is not a factor in determining art. Art is not good because it is old, but old because it is good. That's according to Dudley. For example, the works of Rizal and Francisco Balagtas are not read because they are old, but they are beautifully written. Art is not nature. Art is man's expression of his reception of nature. It is his way of interpreting nature. Art is made by man, whereas nature is a given around us. In the Philippines, it is not entirely novel to hear some consumers or local movies remark that these movies produced locally and are unrealistic. So it's nothing new to us. They contend that local movies work around certain formula to the detriment of substance and faithfulness to reality of the movies. These critical minds argue that a good movie must reflect reality as closely as possible. Is that so? So that's something that we need to think of or to ponder on. One important characteristic of art is that it is not nature. Art is man's expression of his perception of nature. Art is man's way of interpreting nature. And art is not nature. It is this juncture that they can be considered opposites. That we find in nature should not be expected to be present in art too. Art is based on individual subjective experience of nature. Artists are not expected to duplicate the nature, just as even scientists with their elaborate laboratories cannot make nature. The distinction assumes that all of this, or all of us, see nature, perceive its elements. in myriad different yet ultimately valid ways. Art involves experience. Art is the actual doing of something, right? So examples are radio, DJ, choreographer, painter, and sculpture, right? It involves through experience. All art depends on experience, and if one is to know art, he must know it is not as fact or information, but as experience. So, Dudley in 1960 affirmed that all art depends on experience, and if one is to know art, he must know it not as a fact or information, but as experience. So that's according to him. Getting this far without satisfactory definition of art can be quite weird for some. For most people, art does not require full definition. Art is just experience. By experience, we mean the actual doing of something, right? When one says that he has an experience of something, he often means that he knows what that something is all about. A work of art, when cannot be abstracted from actual doing, in order to know what an art is, we have to sense it, see or hear it, and see and hear it, or even feel it. To fully appreciate our national heroes monument, one must go to Rizal Park and see the actual sculpture. Isn't it correct? So I have here quote I would like to share. So art undeniably is conducted to happiness. Okay. Another one is that every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist once he grows up. All right. So those are just a simple introduction about art, simple definitions about art, and then let's get to know more about the art, right, and its beauty as we go on to our next lesson. So I hope you learned something out of those definitions that I shared to you. All right. So thank you very much for your participation. Now, if you have some questions and other clarifications or something that you want to share, do not hesitate to click on the reply button to the mode of modality, learning modality that we use. So kindly share your insights there. And I am very willing to answer and then share also other ideas of mine about art. So thank you.